viewers, welcome back to our channel, The Balanced Wellbeing. I'm your host, M. Benamor, simply the best in the universe. Balanced wellbeing means judging life positively. Do you judge life positively? I know that is an intense question that requires truthfulness on your part. Fortunately, if you're not truthful to yourself, you have a long way to go. And this brings us to today's topic, which is happiness cannot be found. I bet you may think this sounds controversial. So tell me, how would you find happiness? What instrument, what searchlight would you use in finding happiness? Dumb as it may sound. But I guess this will really get you thinking. So tell me, what searchlight would you use to find happiness? I would love to see your answers. Please put your answers in the comment section below and we'll discuss it further. Have you heard the saying, do as I say and don't do as I do? But most often than not, we find ourselves doing what others do instead of doing what they ask us to do. Conflicting, yes. But this is very important when it comes to creating happiness for ourselves and for others. Happiness seems to be very elusive and it's very difficult to be in a happy place all the time. Everyone desires happiness, but it seems like chasing the wind. The brain in our head. Do you notice that the brain is not always on our side when it comes to finding happiness or creating happiness? So, what can we do to counter this? I don't know. But I guess with time we'll understand the topic in this video. One quick fact I would like to bring to your notice is that it's not going to be simply by positive thinking, but by positive action. It's not going to be simply by positive thinking, but critically by positive action. Now note the two. We have positive thinking and we have positive action. So the quick fact I want to bring to your notice is that it's not simply going to be by positive thinking, but critically by positive action. So let's begin. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you are worried over something and you just find yourself worrying over that particular situation, and you know deep down in you that worrying over that situation cannot solve the problem, but you just found yourself, worrying. You just kept worrying and worrying and worrying. Have you ever found yourself in that situation? Let me see your hands. I am guilty as charged because I find myself worrying over nothing, even though I know that worry will not solve that problem. So I'm guilty. Majority of us are guilty about this. Yes, we keep worrying over nothing. Absolutely nothing. But let's take this from another perspective. What if we can switch the frequency to a happy thought and we just get on with our lives? It would have been easier. But does this really happen? That is why I said happiness is very elusive. And our thoughts, they do have a life of their own. So we need to have significant mind control to take charge of situation, to take charge of our thoughts, and to take charge of various actions that we're faced with. We need to engage in decisions and exercises that are tailored towards mind control, because it's not only about positive thinking, but more of positive action. Now let's take this example. The example is this. If I ask you to focus on a thought for 10 minutes without thinking about any other thing, it will be hard for us to stay focused for 10 minutes in our thoughts. From another perspective, if I ask you to focus on a particular action for 10 minutes, for instance, I ask you to stand up or I ask you to dance for 10 minutes, I'm sure a lot of us will sustain that because we have a better chance of controlling our action. And in the process of dancing, you see everyone, doing freestyle, dancing the way we like, and we're happy about doing that. But when it comes to the issue of thinking, for 10 minutes, our thoughts would wander. You have more control over your action than you have more control over your thoughts, because 50% of the time, the thought will always wander. So it simply demonstrates that it's more difficult for us to control our thoughts, but we stand a better chance in controlling our actions than our thoughts, because we are in charge of our actions. Logically follows that well-being and happiness is better built on positive action than just positive thinking. So let's look at this closely. Your well-being is divided into several dimensions, and I will mention them. You have the social, you have the physical, you have the mental, you have the financial, you have the emotional, you have the digital, you have the spiritual, and then you have the sexual. Now that we know some dimensions of our well-being, if we decide to pick one and then we adopt just positive thinking towards that dimension, for instance, we're looking at our financial well-being and we decide to pick, the financial well-being and say, okay, I want to improve my financial well-being, and then decide to focus on only positive thinking without any corresponding positive action, then we will definitely not progress in that particular area. Yeah, just think about it. You pick, I want to be rich. I want to have $50 million in my account. And then you sit down and you have only positive thoughts towards this without any corresponding action, you go nowhere. Trust me. Again, I want to assume that we all look at ourselves as rational beings, logical in thinking, objective in our analysis. We all tend to look at ourselves in that way, majority of us. But I'm sorry to disappoint you, we are all subjective beings. And our various objective analysis or various objective, rational or logical thinking is subjective and very relative. Okay? Because where my own objectivity stops is where Mr. B's objectivity begins. So we're more of subjective being than objective in our various analysis. Now, why do I say we're subjective? Because the brain has developed over time several thinking biases. My own thinking bias is definitely different from your thinking biases. And this has influenced the way we perceive situation, influenced the way we perceive life, and influenced the way our worldview is presented. And these thinking biases has affected our perception of life and has also affected the way we sort, categorize, and prioritize information concerning any situation. There is no way your thinking biases would not affect the way you sort this information, you categorize this information, and also prioritize this information. That is why your priority is totally different from my own priority. That is why you are different, and that is why I am different, even if we live in the same world. Now let's take this further. You find yourself in an evaluation session with your boss, whether it's a he or a she, and then your boss tells you of the so many accomplishments, so many contributions that you have brought to the establishment, and also tells you about your professional shortcomings. When you leave the presence of your boss, what area does your brain pick up? Again, let's look at a situation whereby you are with a colleague and the colleague praises you about your contribution or about your outstanding qualities in a recently concluded event, and also condemns you or tells you about how you messed up in another, situation in the same event. What area would your brain focus on? Like me, the brain will focus on the negative. The brain will focus on the complaints of my professional shortcomings, or the brain will focus on the, condemnation of my attitude or my action during that event. So there is no way the praises or the good comments we get neutralizes the complaints that we get, because of the way our brains have been programmed over time, over the years, from infancy, from our formative stages. Yeah, the way the brain has been programmed is responsible for some of these tendency towards more negative events over the positive. So we notice that we give more emotion. Remember I said emotion means energy in motion. So we give more emotion to the complaints rather than the good positive comments we got from our colleague and our boss, because of the way the brain has been programmed. And it's simply not our fault, okay? But we have to do things, we have to do some exercises to change the paradigm. Have you noticed that this complaint leaves more emotional marks in us? And we begin to notice that the negative effect of setback seems to have more emotion and seems to be stronger than the positive effect of success. In the same way we feel bad when we lose a certain amount of money, than feel happy when we gain that same amount of money. Check this out. What's your emotion? Why do you think we have this automatic preparedness to be drawn towards negative emotions? It's simply because of the way the brain has been trained over time. And you notice that we are automatically drawn to unpleasant situations or potentially threatening occurrences. I want you to know that the brain is simply overprotective and concerned about our survival throughout the day. Yes, we need to survive as human beings, okay? And the brain is concerned about our survival. So when the survival mode is activated, it brings in fear, anxiety, worry, and tension. And we're simply programmed for this because the brain is concerned about our survival. So there's something called the survival mode, and when these things come into play in whatever situation we find ourselves, it negatively impacts our well-being and our happiness. So like I said, this tension, fear, worry, and anxiety that the survival mode brings in is not what we want, because it simply affects our well-being in a very negative way. When our well-being is affected negatively, we cannot be happy and we cannot have a good well-being. Neither can we judge life positively and feel good all around. So in our next video, we'll be discussing how we can cultivate happiness for a good well-being, not how we can find happiness, because I told you happiness cannot be found. We will learn how to cultivate happiness so that can translate into us having a good well-being in the various dimensions. Okay? So, till we meet again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our videos. Thank you very much for watching. Till we come your way again. Bye for now.